Good morning, everybody. It's Netta. Today I have a thrifted book haul for you for junk journal making. Most of these books I bought off of thriftbooks.com. I recommend if you're doing thriftbooks.com that you buy the lowest quality books, since we are going to be tearing them apart. And several of the books I have were gotten from thrift stores, which a lot of times is the cheaper option, but it can be harder to find exactly what you're looking for. So let's go ahead and get into it. So this is The Wildflowers of America with paintings by Maryville Walcott. And there's some ephemera in here. And also some pressed flowers. So the copyright on this one is 1968. It says it's the 7th printing. So this book is chock full of massive botanical illustrations. Some of them are a little smaller, like this one, but a lot of them are full page gorgeousness. So some people avoid bigger books like this because they say the images are difficult to use. Personally, I disagree. You just have to be creative in how you use them. This page would be great for either fussy cutting, or if you were to fold it this way, you could get a page folio. You could use it as a wrap around and tuck with a pocket, or whatever your choice is on the outside of a page. You just have to get creative. Like this one, you could easily cut this in half, trim this down. You can get a side pocket out of each side of this. You just have to use your imagination. So books like this, where the images are on both sides of the page and you have to pick and choose, I do recommend finding a twin. I probably won't for this particular book, simply because the images are so large, which means it'll take me forever to use it. So I'm not so worried about using both sides of the pages. So that one is full of so much pretty. Alright, and then we have a golden guide to flowers. When you're looking for the golden guides, make sure that you don't buy the ones that say photo guide, because then you're getting photos rather than illustrations. This one, the copyright is 1987. In general, I try to find books that are not published after 1990. This one is a twin. I already have a copy, but again, the images are on both sides, and they happen to be gorgeous in this book. Some of the images are appropriate for fussy cutting. Like this particular one, you could get a fussy cut little page pocket plus 3 small fussy cuts out of it, or you could literally just use it as the whole page. This is not a sewn-in binding, so you cannot get folios out of it unless you hinge the pages after you take them out. But it's full of a lot of lovely. This one is the Peterson First Guide to Butterflies and Moths of North America. I did break my rules with this one by a few years, I should say. The text is from 1992, but the copyright on this book is 1994. Bought this one because it's perfect for fussy cutting. There's plenty of white space around all of the butterfly images, and none of them overlap. It's got moths in here too. This one's also another twin for me. It's the Golden Guide to Field Identification of Wildflowers of North America. And there's a library pocket in here, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that out because they taped over the edge of it. And the copyright on this one is 1984. So this is the reason that I got a twin. Not because the images were on both sides, but just because these are lovely, and we all know from watching other junk journalers videos that there are 1,000,001 ways to use these pages. You literally just treat them as if they were scrapbooking paper, and for less than $5, you can't even buy a pad of scrapbooking paper for that price. This one I happen to have, they are twins. This is the Complete Handbook of Garden Plants by Michael Wright. And this one is copyright 1984. And this one is copyright also 1984. So this one was a hardback, this one's paperback. The paper in the hardback is actually a little, it's more matte, but it's slightly thinner. This one is semi-gloss. I don't know if you can see that little bit of shine. It's not super glossy, but the paper's a little thicker. And the reason that I bought 2 of these is because this book does double duty. There are a lot of pages where there's plenty of white space around the plants to do fussy cutting, but then there are also pages where, similar to the previous book that I just showed, where the images are overlapping. So you can treat those as if they were scrapbooking paper for backgrounds on pockets, making tiny envelopes. But I definitely wanted 2 copies of this just because it's so versatile and it's full of so much lovely. So I know this one's popular with a lot of junk journalers, and this is Poems of the Countryside with illustrations by Gordon Benningfield. And his paintings are beautiful. Just remember, on all of these, you have to use the actual book pages. You cannot scan, and you can't make copies. You can't do that, but you can use the actual book pages themselves. There's so much in here. And since these are, a lot of these are long, it's real easy to fold them and turn them into folios and your signatures. And I know some of you might be getting confused because in the junk journal world, when you hear folio, usually it's kind of like a folder and it's got pockets in it and people put ephemera in it. But in actual bookbinding terms, a folio is a folded page. So, just so you guys know why I keep using that word. Alright. This one is the Royal Horticultural Society Address Book. I have to admit, I searched this one out because I did see it on another junk journaler's video. I can't remember who it was because it was a while ago. So this one is copyright 1996. However, the images in here are all public domain, historical, botanical illustrations. The lined pages could be used. It does happen to have a sewn binding, so these can be taken apart. And then spread out every so often, there are gorgeous botanical illustrations. A lot of them are back to back, so you might have to pick and choose. You might want to search out a twin, depending on how you use them. but just for the lined paper and the illustrations, I thought that it was worth it. Because again, it's one that's going to do some sort of dual duty for you. So there's that. There's an illustration at the beginning of every, illustrated page at the beginning of every letter. This is one of everybody's favorites. It's The Country Diary of an Edwardian Lady. This happens to be the smaller paperback version. The copyright is 1977 and 1982. It's got that gorgeous, pre-aged, heavyweight paper. This is a glue-in binding, so you're not going to get page spread folios unless you hinge them. But because it's smaller, it does make it slightly easier to use in a lot of different ways. You can get smaller envelopes, smaller folios, smaller whatever you're wanting to use it for. I lucked out and found this one at Half Price Books. If you guys are specifically looking, this is in the nature section, and it's in the section where the nature writing section, where you would find things like the book by Farley Mowat about the wolves, and so it's just after all of the like field guides and stuff. It's in all of the nature writing. This one's a twin. It's the Book of North American Birds from Reader's Digest. It is an awkward format because it's tall and skinny, but these are perfect for fussy cutting. And it's a twin because they're on both sides of the page. So for me, they're perfect for fussy cutting. I also will cut out and use all of these tiny little black and white illustrations because why not? But it is full of just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous birds. And this one was published in 1990. Oh, this one, I don't want to color it a twin because I did find a thrifted, smaller version of this at the thrift store. This is the complete illustrated Thorburns Animals, Mammals, and it is a big book. So Thorburns images, you can also find a lot of these paintings on the Biodiversity Heritage Library if you don't want to look out for a book because they are in the public domain. So you just have to look up his name. And but some of these, like again with the larger images, this one in particular, you can cut it in half this way, and then if you fold it in just the right place, you can easily divide this so that they are, you're not interfering with the image. Some of the much larger ones, like this one, I do have to figure out how to use, but I'll figure it out. There are some black and white illustrations in here. They're also his, which are just beautiful. But you've got all kinds of mammals in here. You've got seagoing mammals. The paperback version of this that I found a while ago, the images are slightly smaller, but they're still full page and still large. He's so cute. So there is that one. And did I say the copyright date on this one? The copyright date on this one is 1989. Alright, this is one that I did spend a little bit more money on. I saw it at Half Price Books when I found that Edith Holden book, but I decided to go back and get it. I decided if it was still there when I went back, that I would get it. It was $15, but it is a huge book. It is Flowers of the World by Frances Perry. And believe it or not, if you look this one up on Amazon, it's going for a lot of money. So for $15, I went back and got it. You can find cheaper versions of this on eBay and thrift books, depending on the quality that they are in. But there's plenty in here for fussy cutting. There's also a lot of images that literally take up a whole page. So again, you'll have to get creative in how you use them, but it's just full of a lot of lovely. I thought it was worth it for $15. I don't make those kind of purchases very often, and a lot of times it's offset by the much cheaper books that I do find. I've got one that I'll show you in a minute. This one's probably my least favorite purchase because I did buy it blind through thrift books, and I happen to have the Childcraft Animals book. I have 2 copies of that, and it does have a lot of great animal illustrations in that. So I was hoping this one would be just as great, but it's not my favorite because there are not as many illustrations that I personally like. So the copyright on this is 1976. The first run looks like it was in 1964. So these are pretty old, and a lot of the illustrations are quite literally in this. It's definitely a 1960s, 1970s style of illustration, and some of them I like, some of them not so much. I do really like these full page illustrations. I think these are great. A word of caution on the Childcraft books: they're not glued in, they're not sewed in. There's a huge staple in like 3 spots, and you do have to be careful trying to remove that if you decide to not just cut out or tear the pages out. I got this scar on my thumb trying to remove one of those staples, and I managed to slip and gouge the heck out of my finger. So just be careful if you decide to try and take this book, like actually take it apart. I do have to say this book does have a lot of black and white illustrations that I could find useful. There's a lot of photos in here, but I do not tend to gravitate towards using photos. There are like cute little illustrations sprinkled throughout, and it's just enough to make this worth having bought, but it's definitely not my most favorite purchase, and probably I would say one that I would find the least useful out of everything that I bought. This page is really cool though. There are a few pages that do have, since I plan on doing tiny journals, like a lot of these little tiny illustrations will come in handy. I will say that the prehistoric section pretty much rocks because, you know, since it's prehistoric, everything's illustrated in that chapter. So, since you guys know I like my dinosaurs, that works for me. So that is that one. Okay, so here we have The World of Birds by James Fisher and Roger Tory Peterson. There's no actual copyright date published in here, but I feel like it was listed to be mid-70s, late 60s, mid-70s. So this one is full of all sorts of ready-made journal cards and lots of images for fussy cutting. These would be really cool under napkins, because these little bird silhouettes would pop out. That'd be pretty spiffy. There's even some images from title pages of 17th and 18th century publications. But there's all kinds of gorgeous images in here. Pretty sure that's a photo, but it looks illustrated, so it still works. These are like ready-made journal cards or pockets. This could be a fussy cut side tuck. There's a lot of stuff in here that you could use in so many different ways. Lots of fussy cuts. There's a whole lot of beautiful in there. Okay, so this is my this is a twin. I've already had several twin copies of the books in this series. It's the Time Life Encyclopedia of Gardening. And the publication date on this is 1979. So the whole front of this book is full of photos and gardening information. So if you don't mind using photos, a lot of them are full page, so you could get envelopes and all kinds of stuff out of them. I'm not so into the photos part. But the whole back of this series of books, there's always a full page illustration, which is really gorgeous, but then the rest of the book is full of back-to-back. They're pre-framed illustrations, so they'd be great for slapping on the front of envelopes, collaging with. I buy twins so that as I take the books apart, the first book, I can make sure that I'm taking all the images from this side, and the second book, I'm taking sure I'm taking all the images from this side, and then that way I get every single image to keep. And then I also keep this section here, because these are, just because of the long and narrow shape, they're great for trifold envelopes and making side pockets and all kinds of other stuff that you can do. It's that vaguely matte semi-gloss kind of paper. You can hear it's got that little bit of a squeak to it, but it's still great for whatever you want to use it for. And there's several books in this series. I've gotten the cacti one, and this is the shade garden, and I'm pretty sure I've done I can't even perennials. I've done the perennials and the annuals, and I think there's one on trees. We pretty much have one on everything, and I did one on I got one on the cacti, but I don't think I'm going to use those a lot, so I did not find a twin for that one. I just pick and chose which ones I wanted. So that is a great series of books to try and find. Very useful. This book is the Painted Gardens, English Watercolors from 1850 to 1914. So this is collected. Look at the foxing on that. That's really cool. This is, the publishing date is 1988. It's literally just full of public domain paintings of English gardens. So they're gorgeous. You can use them as page spreads. It is a sewn book, so it's easy to take apart if you want to make sure you don't damage, like tear out any extra of these paintings that go across 2 pages. I would take the book apart so that you can treat things a little bit more delicately. But these are just beautiful. Some of them are smaller, so you can use them on envelopes or fussy cutting. The bigger ones you can fold and use across page signatures, or you can tear them up and use them for collaging. They're just so insanely useful, especially for those of us who like botanical and nature-oriented things. There are some more there are some paintings with people in them, so if you're into certain time periods, there are some in here that will serve you well in that regard. So that book is great. And this book is Albert Bierstadt, and he was a painter who's been gone for a long time now. Copyright on this one is 1981. So since these paintings are in the public domain, you can use them in so many ways. I just love his, since high school, I have loved the way he uses light in his paintings. Like, look at that. It's beautiful. So these can be used as page spreads, fussy cutting, collaging. There's some more Bierstadt ephemera in here. I like it when I find things tucked in books. It's like little bonuses. So there's a whole lot of lovely in here. And then this book, this is why I said that the cost of that one flower book does get offset. I found this Rand McNally Cosmopolitan World Atlas for $1.50 at the thrift store. And it's got some kids' illustrations in it. And the copyright on this one is 1987. The reason I got real excited about this is because the paper is that super matte, I want to say like really nice hardback fiction book type of paper, which makes it great for junk journaling. The color stories on the maps are great. So it's multi-use. The pages are huge, so it's like getting some really nice scrapbooking paper that you can use in so many ways. The whole back of the book is index pages, and they are a slightly lighter weight paper than the actual maps themselves, but because these pages are so big, they would be perfect for laminating napkins onto. And because they're so big, you're not going to have a whole lot of napkin scrap left, which is fan-freaking-tastic. So that is it for my book haul, and I hope everybody is enjoying their holidays, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.